Welcome back to the class on international business communication. Today we will talk about a topic that will deal with the application of whatever we have talked about till now. So we'll talk about collaboration, and let's get into it. Revisions first. What are the implications of the following in a diverse international and intercultural professional environment? We've talked about different theories. I would like you to think about the applications of these theories in diverse international and intercultural professional environments. I hope by now you know the difference between international and intercultural and intercommunity and all of those different terms that we use. So how does bureaucratic theory apply to the international and intercultural professional environment? How do different cultural theories apply? How does the feminist theory apply? How is the structure of an organization shaped by the communication patterns within and outside the organization? And that is what I'd like you to talk about, discuss amongst yourselves, and then move on to the rest of the lecture. Now, at this point, I would like you to figure out or understand, that and this is pertaining to all these different questions that I've been giving you. There are no right answers here. Whatever you say, whatever I say, whatever any of my seniors in the profession say is always going to have some room for addition. We all realize that nothing in these cases is exhaustive, nothing is fully complete. There's always an element of contextuality, there's always an element of the frame of reference. Yes, you know, if we are asking you about culture and you are giving us a program to build a video game, then definitely there's something wrong. But by and large, if you ask me for complete answers to the questions I've given you, I don't think anyone can do that. The purpose of the questions I give you is to sensitize you to your environments, is to learn, is to develop that sensitivity, develop that bug in your minds for learning new things, and it is also the purpose of these questions to help you open your minds to the plethora of possibilities there are in our environments for understanding the environments. We all understand our environments differently, and the one key response that I can give to most of the questions that come up is that as long as we are sensitive, as long as we are open, as long as we accept that a thinking that is different than ours exists in the environment, I think we are okay. That is the biggest problem we face when we write down things, when we get stuck on certain things and we say this is all there is to know. So the whole purpose of giving you all these different ideas is to help you realize that there is so much more out there than any of us can possibly know. And I just want you to open your eyes and look in your environment and see how whatever is being taught to you can help you understand your environment and develop your own insights and come up with newer ideas that you can share with us, and we can build something new together with the ideas that you come up with. So we are open to such things. You are welcome to contact us about any new insights you may develop as a result of what you learn here and your applications of what you learn here to the world outside, and your observing phenomena that we have not had a chance to observe. And your sharing all that information with us will help us with you create some more new knowledge. So we welcome that. Now, that said, let's get back into the course. Before we discuss collaboration, we must discuss the communicative organization model. What is a communicative organization? This model has been mentioned in the book by Modaf and Devine. The book is called Organizational Communication, Foundations, Challenges and Misunderstandings. This is the book This is the book that this diagram has been taken from, and the permission to use this diagram on a public site is awaited. We've applied for permission. Let's see what comes. So this diagram is from that book, and I will help you go through each stage of the diagram. I think this diagram is very applicable. This model is very applicable to the topic of discussion here. Now, the first part of this model is the anticipation of misunderstandings. Let's go back to the model. Communicative organization comprises of anticipation of misunderstandings, social interaction, behavioral flexibility, and strategic communication planning. So these are the 4 aspects of any organization that help, that facilitate its creation as a communicative organization. Okay, in the model, let's go through these stages step by step. The first thing is to anticipate misunderstandings. We should realize that misunderstandings will always happen. In any organization where there are people, misunderstandings are bound to come up. People are bound to not see things in perspective or from the perspective that we are seeing them, for the simple reason that we bring to any work situation, any communication situation, we bring a large amount of information that is not connected with that situation. So we've talked about it enough. I'm not going to dwell too much on it. Okay, anticipation of misunderstandings. In this, we must realize that misunderstandings occur in instances in which people who are communicated do not share meaning. Obviously, how can we share meaning? We bring different backgrounds, different sources of thinking, different memories to our situations. So the manner in which we think, the manner in which we interpret meaning from our environment differs. It varies from person to person, it differs from situation to situation, and that is when misunderstandings occur. Okay, the second part here is misunderstandings can lead to new ways of structuring tasks and roles. Misunderstandings are not always bad. When a misunderstanding happens, what happens? I say something, you say something else. Your boss says take care of this task a certain way. Create a timetable for the employees. Who should do what and when, especially if it's a service organization. You may be put in charge of allocating responsibility to various employees. Say you're in charge of a hotel. Now you'll have customers walking in at all hours, and there will be frontline staff there. And you have to schedule them, you have to make sure that they all get an equal amount of work. You have to make sure that people who are working early in the morning on say 1 week get time off the next week, or they are not put on the night shift the next week. So you have to do all these things, and people use different formulae, different ways of doing things. Now the boss says, this is how I have been doing it, and this is how I think you should do it, and you say, I have a different idea about it. So boss says, why do you have a different idea? I have been doing the scheduling. I was taught scheduling in this Institute of Hotel Management, which is the best, most reputed institute of hotel management all over the world. I've been doing it. I've been using it practically for 30 years. Why should I even be open to looking at a different perspective? Now, maybe you have not had a chance to go to the same institute as the boss. You were born maybe 30 years later than the boss, and you come up with a new idea. And you say, I don't care what has been done. This is what seems more logical to me. This is something that I understand better. And so I am going to do the scheduling in this manner. That is where misunderstandings crop up. We are bringing a different meaning. I say mine is better, boss says his is better. This doesn't necessarily have to be bad. Going back to what we were talking about, misunderstandings lead to new ways of structuring tasks and roles. So what do? How can you make this a positive thing for both of you? You sit together, boss says, these are the reasons why I think this method can be used for scheduling. You sit down and you say, these are the reasons I think what I am saying can be better for scheduling. maybe what you are saying has less of formulae or and more of the human element, or maybe what you're saying has more of formulae, less of the human element. Boss has been in the industry for 30 years, boss has seen things falling apart at the last minute, boss says I need to factor these contingencies in. So what do? You come up with a third formula that has the best of both of these formulae, and that is how you can create new ways of scheduling, and everybody is happy. Misunderstandings can help people to consider alternative ways of acting. Again, the comfort, the ideas coming to us from the environment can help us develop new ways, alternative styles of behaving. If the misunderstanding leads to some sort of a discomfort that can help us, and if the manner in which we can become comfortable again is simple, is comfortable, is easy for us, we adopt that method. If the misunderstanding causes enough discomfort for us to move away from the situation, then what do? We start looking for alternative ideas. And so that is when we sort of explore our options, and like you say, it is the hunchbacks, the kick for the hunchback. So that is exactly what misunderstandings can serve to be. And okay, the next one here is misunderstandings can lead to creative problem solving. Again, very connected, and all of this happens in and through communication. You anticipate that there are going to be problems. We anticipate that we assume that problems will come up. These are the places where problems will come up. These are the reasons why problems will come up. So if I make those assumptions ahead of time, and I think of ways to counter those problems, and I communicate my concerns to my team, they also look out for these issues. They also start anticipating things. Again, the option here, the goal here is not to scare the organization. The goal here is not to scare the employees. It's just to help them realize that various things could go wrong, and you anticipate things and you try and put in fixes, and that happens only in and through communication. Okay, the second part here is anticipation of misunderstandings. Again, there's some more of the misunderstandings here. There could be a conflict in values. Conflict in values could be created because of disparity between individual and organizational values regarding organizational mission. So those are the reasons in which the reasons that were discussed on the previous slide. These are the reasons because of which these are the assumptions we make when we anticipate misunderstandings. The kinds of misunderstandings that can occur are conflict in values, disparity could be there between the value systems, there could be suppression of a minority member's contributions or lesser valuing of voices of particular groups of people. Now, I have a different, my definition of what is ethical could be different from your definition of what is ethical. Both of us are right. But what I consider as ethical, what I think I will do in a situation, and where I think I will put a stop to temptation luring me its way, is my decision, and that is my value system. And your value system could be different, and there could be a clash in these value systems. Where should we draw the line? Where should we report things? Where should we share information? Where should we go and tell somebody that we've done something wrong? The second part here is suppression of a minority member's contributions or lesser valuing of voices. So when we say that maybe somebody's been taught to value the majority, and every time there's a confusion, every time there's a conflict, every time there's a problem, all you say is let's have a show of hands. Few people get left out and you say we are not going to listen to you. Or some genders, there are biases within the organization, whatever the case may be, we don't want to listen to women. I do not want a woman's opinion. I do not want the opinion of a person belonging to a certain community. I mean, I'm not like that, but that is what happens in organizations at times, and that can create a conflict in values. Now, all this is more likely to involve frame talk and mythopoetic talk, which is what we discussed in the previous class. So we say from this reference point what I am saying is right, and according to this vision of the organization, or this is the vision of the organization, we are heading towards it, and we should not be listening to this group of people, because that will disturb this vision the organization has. Now, that is one thing. Lack of information could be the other kind of misunderstanding that could occur. Intentional and unintentional suppression of information to newcomers. Again, you don't know who to trust and how much to trust. Interruption of the chain of communication owing to geographic separation. Again, one group of people knows one thing, the other group of people knows the other thing. People are sitting in different parts of the office, so they don't come to know what is going on, or the people are sitting in different buildings or different locations of the organization, and information sort of just slips through. The third point here is information gaps resulting from hierarchical or functional differences. So some people in the hierarchy are given some information, others are not. People say you're too junior. What will you do with this information? Why should we share it with you? So one is newcomers, the second one is geography, the third one is your hierarchical position. This information is only available to the deans, say for example, or heads of department. You're an assistant professor, you don't need to know this, you don't belong to this department, you don't need to know this, so all of that. The last point here is removal of information cues with the use of information technology, and that is how the lack of information can occur. People will deliberately go into the system and remove cues that can help you even suspect that there is some more information available. Now, all of this information, all of this conversation is usually correlated with tool talk. So these are the things we need to do our work properly, and if something is not there, if something prevents us from doing our work properly, then it becomes a problem. The last point here is strategic misinterpretations. Again, misunderstandings can occur because people don't want to interpret things right. They'll say, this is how I understood it. There's purposive misunderstanding because it can benefit people in a certain way. So the more ambiguous you are in your conversation, the higher the chance of strategic misinterpretation by people. Everybody wants to do things for their own benefit, and somebody may find a loophole in whatever you are saying, and that may become a problem for you later. They'll say, well, this is what you said and this is how I interpreted it. This is how somebody else could have interpreted it. And so multiple interpretations or possibility of multiple interpretations can lead to misunderstandings, which can impede the growth of, impede the movement or effective smooth movement of communication within the organization. The next point here is social interaction that can affect the communication within the organization. First, here is psychological immediacy. How close you feel to another colleague, psychological involvement with another person's message, and the active listening that enhances psychological immediacy. You listen to what is being said, you pay attention to what is being said, and that brings you closer to the person you are talking to. Real-time response, which is timely feedback, that's another part of social interaction. Exchange assessment is the conscious analysis of any impending message exchange and the conscious choice of media to be used. So what we do here is we consciously analyze the message exchange, we consciously figure out what media should be used, and we'll deal with these things when we talk about communication strategy. But we use a medium, and then we draft the content accordingly, and then we sit and analyze it after the message has been sent, and that leads to more of social interaction, and that leads to enhancement of social interaction. The last point here is management of relationship confusion. which involves identification of appropriate behaviors when interacting with friends, co-workers, and sometimes romantic relationships at work. They are not unheard of. So we need to manage this confusion that crops up because of these multiple roles that we play at work with the same people. Somebody could be a peer, somebody could be a colleague, co-worker, you could also be friends with them outside of work, or you may end up getting married to them, or you may end up getting romantically involved with them, and that can lead to role confusion, and you need to talk about these things, and that will lead to the social, that symbolizes social interaction within the organization. Okay, the third point here is behavioral flexibility. You could have behavioral flexibility with superiors, subordinates, and peers when they move from formal to semi-formal contexts. You need to have behavioral flexibility with your superiors, peers, and subordinates when they move from formal to semi-formal context. For example, you have a meeting, you're talking to people in the meeting, then you move to a social situation, you're going for an office party. So in that situation, you will need to be flexible with the manner in which you behave with people. There could be a change in the relationships with these people, professional to professional plus friendship, or professional plus romance, depending on the situation. There could be a change in interaction patterns because of the above, and this could lead to dialectical tensions. All these are parts of behavioral flexibility. Change in interaction patterns because of the change in relationship, because of the change in situation, because of the change in context, and all this could lead to dialectical tensions, which means how connected you feel to the person you are interacting with and how much autonomy you have in the relationship, specifically pertaining to your role in the organization. If you are, I'll give you an example of this. Say you become friends with your boss. You are playing golf together outside of the organization, outside of the official work. So you go to the office, and before you became friends with the boss, you could speak your mind. Anytime there was a problem, anytime there was some confusion, you could speak your mind. The boss could tell you exactly what he felt. So then you go outside and start playing golf, you become friends, the expectations build up. The boss says, okay, you're my friend, you will support me no matter what. And you say, you're my boss, you will support me no matter what. Great. We become interdependent on each other. And then you go back to the office and something controversial comes up. You don't agree with your boss on something, but you feel hesitant. I should not be saying this because it will affect my friendship outside of work. Or because I have shown, or because we've exchanged our vulnerable sides outside of work with each other, this kind of, at this point I should really not speak my mind, because if he gets offended, he's the same person, he might end up hurting me later. So that is the dialectical tension we are talking about as far as connection versus autonomy is concerned. Then predictability versus novelty, that's another one here. Again, taking the same example, we'll say, okay, you're a boss, you're my friend, this is how you'll behave. But the boss may end up doing something brand new, or then you'll say, you've stabbed me in the back. I could not see this coming. Why? Because we were friends outside of work. So all of these things are interconnected. And you need to be a little flexible with your behavior in various situations to avoid these situations. Openness versus privacy, how much should you disclose? What should you say to the person you're with in order to avoid confusions? And where should you draw the line and say this is absolutely private information, and whether the boss becomes a friend or not, because we are connected so tightly at work, I will not share this information no matter what. Okay, the last point here is strategic communication planning. We've anticipated misunderstandings, we have had social interaction, we have developed behavioral flexibility, and now we need to start planning in a strategic manner. What do? The first step here is recognition. Recognize that organizational life is inherently problematic and characterized by misunderstandings. There will be misunderstandings, there will be problems, that's a given, you can't change that. Then after you have recognized, you contain it. We need to manage it so that the negative effects are minimal. Then we need to cope with it. We know that something is going to go wrong and we need to cope with communication problems or misunderstandings. They will come up no matter what. So we need to develop strategies for coping with it. The last point here is constructing. We need to construct a new interpretation of misunderstanding so that learning can occur. So seeing the glass as half full instead of half empty. We know misunderstandings will come up, but we set the ball rolling. Anytime something supposedly negative happens, you put a positive spin on it. You're anticipating it. You have had some social interaction regarding it. You have developed behavioral flexibility regarding it or regarding similar situations. Now is the time when you say, okay, I'm going to come up with a new idea, or come up with, I will recognize the problem when it comes up, I will minimize its spread, I will cope with it, and I will find a new and more comfortable way of dealing with it, and I will share that with everybody. And all of this needs to be done in and through communication. You can't just sit at your desk and write a paper about it and be done with it. Whatever you're doing has to be shared with the stakeholders, with the people involved. Okay, the next thing we will discuss today is communication climates. The communicative organization functions within or has a climate, develops a climate of its own. What is a communication climate? Communication climate has been defined as the emotional tone of a emotional tone of a relationship between people who are interacting, or organizations or employees with each other. So the tone of the organization or the feeling that you get within the organization is the communication climate of the organization. And one example of this is when you go into the office, how do you feel? Do you feel happy? Do you want to go to the office and meet the people you work with on a daily basis? If yes, then the climate is positive. If we start avoiding people, then there is a problem, and we'll discuss that in a minute. We've discussed part of it in communication barriers also. So that is the emotional tone. Do I feel that my colleagues are friendly? Do I feel that my colleagues are supportive of me? Do I feel that the organization encourages new ideas? Do I feel that the organization helps me come up with new things and supports me when I'm doing new things? Do I feel that the organization supports me when I'm in trouble? Do I really like being there? Do I feel comfortable there? Or do I feel that I have to go because I need the salary and the job, but I'm not really happy there? That is the communication climate. Okay. Some concepts here. The first one, or some factors that can affect the communication climate of an organization. One is self-disclosure, which means the revelation of personal information about ourselves that others are unlikely to learn in other ways, and it may impact personal and professional growth and closeness and bonding with team members. So when we say self-disclosure, we are essentially talking about how much information we share about ourselves with the people around us. Some of this information is mandatory, has to be given to the HR department. What is your date of birth? What is your age? Do you have any medical ailments that can impact your work? Permanent address, property, vehicles, all of that stuff. So that is sort of, for the organization. Now, which schools did you study in? It is on paper, they don't take a look at it. But when you start talking to people, it can give them a sense of connectivity at times, or which state do you belong to, which town do you belong to. In India, that is very, very high because we speak different languages in different states. In several other countries, the language that is spoken is not so different. But in India, we have, I believe, and I hope I'm not wrong, we have 15 official languages in which the country is, administration is being run. So considering this diversity, it becomes so complex. And by languages, I don't mean dialects. Languages means languages with their own scripts, with their own histories, with their own archives. I mean, everything is there. So we are very, very different culturally, and it becomes really difficult for us to go to a new place and adjust. And when we go to a foreign country, we'll say okay, or when we meet with international clients, the manner in which a person belonging to Punjab will deal with an international client will be different from the manner in which a person belonging to Gujarat will deal with the international client, will be different from a person belonging to say Tamil Nadu will deal with the international client, will be different from the manner in which a person belonging to Bengal will deal with the international client. So we bring all these different things to the table when we talk to people. And how much information will be appropriate in a metropolitan city? You say, who cares? Whatever I say is up on the net, my information is verifiable. So that is one thing that some people from the metropolitan areas could say. Or these days, in this day and age of identity theft, what will people say? I don't want to tell you the name of my spouse, I don't want to tell you the name of my parents, I don't want to tell you the state in which I was born. All this is very personal information. What if you steal my identity? What if you find a vulnerable spot? What if you go to my hometown and find out I did something wrong? And all those things can have an impact on how closely you bond with your colleagues and what they think of you, and what the organization thinks of you. Where should you draw the line? So all this is impacting the communication climate here. And again, if in the organization you're like one big family, if you are if everybody is sharing that information, if you're constantly going to each other's houses to celebrate their kids' birthdays, fine, there's some amount of information you feel comfortable sharing. In other organizations, you'll feel that personal and professional lives are kept completely separate. People don't socialize, people don't tell you when they have a child, people will not tell you when they, if they get married, there's a note that is sent to the HR department so they know why you're taking time off. But things are just not discussed. It's nobody's business. It's my personal life. Nobody needs to know about it. But then that climate in the organization is determined by how much information everybody shares collectively about their own personal lives, and how that information is dealt with by the other members in the organization. And that can impact maybe your personal and professional growth in the organization also. If you let your superiors know that you went to a particular type of college and the kind of training you got and what you learnt in your life outside of your work, that may help them identify certain skills that are not really needed for the job you're doing, but that may help you get access to opportunities outside of work. That could help you bring more richness into your work there. We all have our special sides. We have special hobbies, special talents. So we share that information. Maybe somebody will take it positively and help you do something really good out of it. So that is what we mean here. The next thing here is levels of confirmation and disconfirmation. Again, it could be recognition, acknowledgement, and endorsement. Recognition means seeing somebody, accepting that there is somebody is walking towards you. So if you meet your boss on the stairs and you say, "Good morning, sir," and the boss nods at you. So boss looks at you and there is a connection, and the boss says, "Yeah, good morning." So there is recognition, there is acknowledgement, yes, I've heard good morning, and there is endorsement, I respond back. So that is the level of confirmation. When you come to disconfirmation, what will happen is the boss will look at you and say, you'll say, "Good morning, boss," and the boss looks at you as if you did not exist, looks past you, looks right through you. So no recognition, the boss doesn't nod. Sometimes what people will do, they are thinking their own things, and this happens so much in academics. We've stopped feeling bad about it actually. People are thinking about the next research or the next class they're going to teach. So they hear "good morning," they may or may not recognize you, but they'll say, "Yeah, somebody is wishing me," I'll just sort of nod my head and walk off. So that is acknowledgement without recognition. It can happen. And endorsement. Person doesn't respond, person just looks at you, nods their head, and they've heard you and they have acknowledged you, but they are not sort of repeating what you just said. So that is and these levels of confirmation and disconfirmation can impact the organization quite a bit. Now the last part here is defensive and supportive climates, and we have discussed this in the class on communication barriers, so I will not go into it very much. All I'll say is that defensive and supportive climates can have a great amount of impact on communication climates. Just to give you a reference, this was in the second session on the barriers to communication. We talked about organizational barriers to communication. That's where this was discussed, and we don't have enough time, so I'm not going to go into the detail of this. But defensive, supportive climates are climates where your presence is acknowledged, where you are given the support from the organization. Defensive climates are climates where people don't acknowledge your existence, they don't give you any sort of support, and the behavior is very, very negative towards each other. That can impact the climate in the organization, that can impact how you feel when you go to the office. Now, impact of communication climates. Supportive climates enhance collaboration and teamwork. This is one slide where I have not taken, for all the rest of the slides I've given you the references to the information that has been taken from different sources. This is one slide where the information is all my insights that I have developed from whatever I have learned in this whole course of teaching you and in the course of studying communication. So this is really my own work. Okay, supportive climate will enhance collaboration and teamwork. It will lead to high morale and motivation of employees, which could include loyalty. People will be more loyal to you if you support them, if you are nice to them, if they feel good about coming to the office. They will be more committed, they'll do their work better, and they will not want to leave the organization. And we have organizations, public organizations, definitely. We have the Indian Army is one such organization where people serve for generations. It's considered defense forces. So it's considered a matter of pride for the family in India to have people go into the forces, and people are given very high respect even outside, and it's the officer and the soldier cadre I'm talking about at both levels. It's really a matter of pride if generation after generation you go into the army. It's not the last resort, it is the first choice and the only choice for many people. That is one such organization. I will not give you the names of private organizations because it will not be appropriate for me to do so here, but there are lots of private organizations where people go in and serve generation after generation, and that is primarily because of the supportive climate that they have in the organization. People are loyal, they are committed, their efficiency goes up, they want to work, they go to the office because they want to work, so they don't leave the organization. Their children also want to work for the same organization because of these reasons only, and they feel that they are a part of the organization. Defensive climate, on the other hand, will lead to intra and inter-organizational conflict. We will not feel comfortable, so we will have misunderstandings and we will constantly be at loggerheads with each other among peers. We may not be very civil, very polite to people outside the organization. It will lead to low morale and motivation. That will in turn lead to a feeling of instability, which means they will feel they'll not want to go to the office, they'll not know when they'll be thrown out. The one thing defensive climate does is it gives one a feeling of being unwanted. I'm not wanted here. Why are people being nasty to me? Because they don't want me to work here. So why should I work in an organization that doesn't want me? And that feeling of unwantedness leads to a feeling of instability, and that can in turn increase the turnover in the organization. The second thing it can lead to is manipulation. I am not feeling comfortable, so let me change things around by hook or crook so that I become more comfortable than my peers in the organization, and that creates problems. The third thing here is lowered commitment and efficiency. Again, people don't want to work, people don't want to go to the office, they don't enjoy their work, they feel more tired than they would, and it can lead to disloyalty also at times. Suggestions for creating and sustaining healthy communication climate. The first thing you need to do is accept and confirm others. Believe, acknowledge their existence. Yes, you exist and you are important. Affirm and assert yourself. I am also important. You are important. I am important. We are both important pieces of this organization, and we both have to work towards it. So you assert yourself in negative situations and you say, you can't treat me like that, you have to really treat me well. You cannot get away with bypassing me. You cannot get, I mean, not in those words, but depending on the situation, you have to put your foot down and say, you know what, my voice is as important as yours. Respect diversity among people. You respect people, they'll respect you. It's a given. You accept them as different, they will accept you as a person who has a different opinion than them, and everything will be okay. Time your conflict effectively. See, misunderstanding becomes, misunderstandings lead to conflict. Diversity can lead to conflict. Even unintentionally, people bring different ideas to the organization, they are thinking of different things, and that can lead to a conflict. Conflicts can be resolved at any level, but initially it becomes a problem. So if it is a conflict situation, one of the best things one can do is time it properly, save it, and express your conflict at a time when it is going to be more beneficial for people. Some strategies here are that Julia Wood in her book published in 1998 has given. The book is called Communication Mosaics. I don't have that book here, but that is the book this information is from. Try to engage in conflict when both people are able to be fully present and mindful. So they should be able to contribute properly, they should be in a positive, they should be thinking about the issues at hand and not be distracted. Be flexible about when you deal with differences, which means that if somebody doesn't want to address a particular point of irritation or conflict or frustration, then let it go, it's okay. Try bracketing. Mark off peripheral issues for later discussion. The reason for that is that what happens in conflict situations is that everybody's emotions are heightened. Everybody is like firing away, fighting away, yelling and screaming. I mean, that is what you want to do because there's a physiological part associated with it. So what you really need to do is you need to mark off peripheral issues, the side issues for later discussion. Show grace. Showing grace means forgive, putting others' needs before ours when appropriate. And this means that to promote a healthy communication climate, what we need to do is we need to let others have their way at times. It's not always nice to just put our foot down and say my way or the highway. Anytime you feel offended, it doesn't matter if somebody has said something negative. Once in a while, just let it pass. What is the big deal? Why should we go up in arms every time we feel uncomfortable? Once in a while, just let things slide. Maybe the person is in a bad mood, maybe they had a bad day, maybe they're not feeling well, whatever the case may be. So one needs to be more flexible. We need to be able to forgive people. We need to accommodate different points of view. We need to let them have a larger piece of the pie at times, and it's okay because whatever goes around comes around. And if we let others have a larger piece of the pie when they need it, I don't know how this works. I wish I had a logic to explain it, but it does come around, and when you need that help, when you need that large piece of pie, you will also get it. So once in a while, it's okay. We should be able to do that in the organization. Okay. The next thing that we will discuss here is collaboration, and and now I hope you are able to see how we have come to this part of the presentation. We talked about interpersonal communication. We talked about organizational communication. We talked about how relationships were built, and then we discussed communication climate, and now we are talking about collaboration. Finally, this is where it all comes together. In order to collaborate, we need to build relationships with people. We need to be able to gel well with them. We need to know how we sort of go on with those relationships, and we need to know how to work with each other. So this is what collaboration is all about. It is about working together. Collaboration means to labor together. Again, this definition is from Stewart and Logan in the book called Bridges Not Walls. I believe it's a textbook. I don't have that book with me here, but I'll show it to you in maybe one of the later classes, or I've probably shown it to you. Collaboration, according to Marshall 1995, is a principle-based process of working together that produces trust, integrity, and breakthrough results by building true consensus, ownership, and alignment in all aspects of the organization. It is a process in which people come together, they work together for a common goal. And in order to do that, they have to recognize each other, they have to know they have to build working relationships with each other, they have to be able to remove the barriers that they have about communicating with each other. They have to be able to recognize intercultural differences and address them appropriately when they come together, and then they have to start working towards a common goal. And that is why I've taught you whatever I've taught you till now. All these things matter. How does collaboration happen? Collaboration involves forming a decision-making framework, finding a common denominator for relationships, adopting a business transformation methodology in an organizational gyroscope with a new and improved work ethic. Which means, let's go through these steps one by one. The first thing you need to do in collaboration is you form a decision-making framework. You come up with a strategy to make decisions. You come up with a plan for what kind of decision needs to be made, who needs to make the decision, how, where, when, and why. And then after that is done, then you find out who are the people who are going to be doing whatever you have, or who all are going to be working towards the goal that has been set. And at that point of time, we find a common denominator for relationships. We find out what the common ground for these relationships is. The next part is adopting a business transformation methodology, in which case what happens is, after we have decided on a plan, we've decided on the people, we have found out what their common ground is all about, we adopt a business transformation methodology. We come up with a method to change the business to work towards the new goal. And it doesn't, when we say transformation, we are not essentially talking about changing everything in the organization. We must realize that when we move towards a goal, we are essentially doing something different from what we have been doing right now to move on to the next point. That is what transformation is all about. So we come up with a method in which to get everybody involved in the goal, to help them, to encourage them to share their resources, to motivate them to do something different, something new, work towards a newer goal. And that is what adoption of a business transformation methodology is in an organizational gyroscope, in this big mess of the organization that is constantly changing, with a new and improved work ethic. Now again, whatever we are doing new is something that was not there earlier. New contingencies will come up, new things will come up in the environment, and we have to have a new, more committed work ethic, because it's very difficult to start something afresh. And that is where people come together and collaborate. Components of collaborative design, according to Marshall, are: one, a collaborative culture. What is a collaborative culture? Collaborative culture specifically depends upon support from your environment. It depends upon the willingness to of people to work. It starts with the recognition of a need for collaboration, and then the willingness to work towards a common goal and the possibility of working towards a common goal. You can't expect people sitting in 5 different states who are not connected to each other by the media that can help them share their resources to collaborate effectively. So there has to be a possibility of collaboration, and they have to be wanting to do it. Collaborative leadership means the person in charge of the project or of the activity also has to be keen on having people collaborate. Strategic vision, there has to be a vision that everybody agrees on, there has to be strategy behind that vision, there has to be a planning towards achievement of that vision. Collaborative team processes, and we'll talk more about this when we discuss group and team communication. A collaborative structure, and this is what I was talking about when I said that collaboration has to be possible. People sitting in 5 different states or on 5 different continents need to be connected in such a way that they can communicate with each other, they can share their resources, they talk the same language, they have same amount of commitment, they are getting the same kind of remuneration for whatever they are doing. All these things are important, and they are treated at the in a similar manner, all those things. So the structure needs to be facilitative of collaboration. Global teams, the ultimate collaboration. Again, paper by Solomon, published in 1995, talks about global teams being a perfect example of collaboration. Phase 1 of creating global teams. Now this is where whatever we have studied till now comes in. We are talking about international business communication. So global teams, is the concept of global teams becomes very relevant. The phase 1 of this process is recognition of differences in value systems as norms specific to different cultures and not societal norms. So we need to recognize that when people say that they have a different value system, we must realize that this is not a different society. They are not coming from another planet. They are not saying something out of the ordinary. If they have a different value system, it's really a function of the culture they are coming from. Second phase is respect for intercultural differences, where we need to acknowledge that there are differences within the team. People are coming from different cultures, and we need to respect their differences that are a function of the different cultures they come from. We need to be accepting of these differences. Phase 3 is trust within the team and sharing of knowledge. Now again, phase 1 is recognizing that there will be problems. Phase 2 is respect for intercultural differences. When we move from recognition of these different cultural issues, then we realize there's more self-disclosure, there's more talk, there's more communication. We come to know more things. The differences between the team members are highlighted a little more. Some more things that we are uncomfortable with may come up, and that is the point where we have to show respect. After that is done, then we start building trust. There's a significant amount of communication that has gone on. People know each other, people realize that they are part of the same team, and then the trust needs to start building. We'll talk about how we can build trust between different team members, and sharing of knowledge needs to start taking place. You don't, I mean, how many of us feel that trust can be built in the first meeting? Rarely, especially in the workplace. We don't start trusting people up front. We don't start trusting people till we've had some amount of time to know them. And we don't, in these days of intellectual property and people hoarding intellectual property and lots of people creating intellectual property. I am part of a community that survives on the creation of or thrives on the creation of intellectual property. So at times we don't want to share whatever we have learned or share our resources, but once trust is built within the team, then we start sharing our resources, we start sharing what we know and what we have. Phase 4 is collaboration or working together as one unit. So we get together, we start working with each other, and that's where collaboration begins. Some tips for global team building as suggested by Solomon. The first one here is have a good reason for forming a team. We are calling people from different parts of the planet or from different cultures. We should have a good reason for bringing them together. Create a common shared goal. Again, very difficult, especially in an intercultural setting, but we need to create a common goal that is equally important for everybody. Promote interdependency. Each person should know what they are expected to contribute and how they are connected to each other. Otherwise, we can't really call it a team. Have measurable outcomes, talk about intercultural differences and allow people to have some fun with them. Discuss things and tell them that it's all informal and we are not trying to be rude to anyone. We're just trying to share whatever we know about each other. Some more tips. Realize that people need to understand differences before coming together effectively. They need to know that other people will be different from them and they need to understand these differences. Continually stress the team's purpose and its measurable outcomes. Make sure the team members have the right skills. Provide training wherever necessary. Provide detailed agendas for meetings. This helps put things in perspective. Train people wherever possible, wherever you see the possibility of things falling apart or things being misconstrued or whatever. Spell out the lines of communication. So let people know which media they can use to communicate with each other and make it very clear to them, and things will fall into place. Okay, discussion. Before we move on to the topic of teams, that is what we'll do next time, I would like you to explain the conception of a communicative organization. Not conception, the word here should be concept, I'm sorry. Explain the concept of a communicative organization. Let me fix this right here. Okay. Sorry about that. Explain the concept of a communicative organization using your own organization as an example. Why is collaboration important in a profit-making organization, especially in a profit-making environment? We are talking about business communication here, so we are essentially talking about making tons of money. Why is collaboration important in such an organization that whose ultimate goal is to make lots of money along with other things? And how does cultural diversity impact communication climate? How does it impact the supportiveness or defensiveness of climate within an organization? And how does cultural diversity impact collaboration? Think about these things, and we will discuss more about team building next time. Thank you.